Joining me now, former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. He's a legal affairs columnist for Politico magazine. Also with me, MSNBC Justice and Legal Affairs analyst Anthony Coley. He served as the director of the Justice Department's Office of Public Affairs and senior advisor to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Anthony, Renato, thank you both very much for coming to the Saturday show. Renato, have prosecutors in the New York criminal trial, have they shown that this case is about election interference and not just Trump covering up an affair?
Well, I think there's no question that that is the theme that they're sounding. Jonathan, they made that front and center in their opening statement. They are trying to make that case throughout this trial. And in fact, that's what they need to show in order to make this a felony charge as opposed to a misdemeanor. So I think we're going to see more evidence along those lines and more argument along those lines in the weeks to come. You know, the bottom line is that they are trying to show a concerted effort to influence the election. And in fact, what we heard from the first witness, David Pecker, is that the former White House press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was actually part of that effort while she was in office.
Anthony, David Pecker, the National Enquirer publisher, he was on the stand for 4 days. Did the defense succeed in discrediting any of his story during cross-examination?
Not really, Jonathan. This, at its core, was the prosecution's game. It was their win. They needed to dispel this false notion that this case was all about a minor bookkeeping issue, as Donald Trump says, or on the other hand, that it was about hush money payments, which in and of itself are not illegal.
Right.
This is about a broad criminal conspiracy to keep critical information from the American people. And it started in August of 2015, just weeks after Donald Trump announced that he would run for president. And it started in this meeting at Trump Tower where David Pecker was summoned. He had Michael Cohen in the room. And they, as you noted in your lead-in, he promised Trump there that he would be his eyes and ears. And so throughout this campaign, for any types of allegations of these type of torrid affairs. And so I think what jurors saw this week, which is why it was such a clear win for the prosecution, David Pecker took them inside the room and made all of these things very real. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Renato, someone else who's inside the room, I need you to talk about how Michael Cohen's banker, Gary Farrow, fits into the prosecution's narrative. He takes the stand again on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. So first of all, one thing that does matter, although this case isn't entirely about false statements in business records, that is at the core of this. And really, what this witness is going to show is he's going to help prove that these payments took place. He's going to back up and corroborate the testimony of Michael Cohen. We all know Michael Cohen has got credibility issues given his prior convictions. He's going to corroborate that. And he's going to show what those payments were for. In other words, that those payments weren't payments for legal services, that they were fact hush money payments. And so that leads to the question of why there was this cover-up in the books of records of the Trump Organization.
Mm-hmm. Well, one more question for you, Renato, because Judge Juan Merchan has scheduled another hearing for Thursday on Trump's gag order. Why didn't he rule after the first 10 times Trump allegedly violated the gag order? What's taking so long?
Well, you know, there's that image of the sword of Damocles where you have the sword hanging over your head. I really believe that what's going on here is that the judge wants to have this ruling hanging over the head, not so much of Trump, who, let's face it, does whatever he wants to do, but over Trump's lawyers. You know, Trump's lawyers know that at the end of the day, the judge is the one that decides what questions they can ask. Evidence comes in, ultimately may sentence their client. They really don't want to be on the judge's bad side. And he is basically using this as a tool to try to get them to rein in their client as much as possible before he makes the ruling.
Oh, Renato, that's real good. That's real good. I'm sorry. I love it when I hear stuff I've not heard before.
Right.
Anthony, I want to turn to the Trump's immunity claim. Mm-hmm. Justice Gorsuch said during oral arguments, I'm going to read this. I'm not focused on the here and now of this case. Right. I'm very concerned about the future, Anthony. Why shouldn't I be concerned that he isn't concerned about the facts of the case before them?
Right. That's really a head scratcher, right? Because what you see in most court cases, and certainly the Supreme Court, justices, judges are required to look at the facts of the case. And what he is saying here has a lot of people scratching their head. I don't know that anybody can really understand how this is going to play out. But Jonathan, I will tell you, the thing that disturbed me more is the fact that this could get pushed back down to the trial court level. And that would achieve what Donald Trump really wants, right? He's not trying to win this case on the merits at all. He's trying to throw sand in the gears of the case to slow it down, to keep the case from going to being fully adjudicated before the election. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the American people, Jonathan, doing what we all did in 2020, and that is going to the polls.
Him out.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Rana, we've got less than a minute left, but I can't let you go in this segment without asking you this question. The justices talked about official acts and lawful orders of the president. Is an order by the president considered lawful by nature? Who determines that?
It's a great question. And that really is going to require fact-finding by the judge. And that's really what we were just talking about, you were just discussing a moment ago, is that essentially what would have to happen is you'd actually have to have a hearing in front of the judge, in which the judge makes preliminary findings regarding whether or not this is an official act and whether or not a prosecution can go forward. That's what would create so much delay here. And really, that's why this Supreme Court ruling is fraught with a potential threat to our democracy.
You know, we're going to have a whole segment just on this lawful, lawful acts, lawful orders from the president, because I seem to remember reading somewhere that if the president gives an order, it's considered a lawful, you have to follow it. Otherwise, you're disobeying the commander in chief. This is in the military complex. Anyway, we don't have time to talk about it now. Anthony Coley, Renato Mariotti, thank you both very much for coming to the Saturday show.